Alright guys, in this lesson we'll see how we can create a simple to-do list in pure JavaScript. As you can see, we can add items and also remove them from the list. So let's see how we can do this directly in JavaScript. We'll switch to Visual Studio Code. Actually, we'll have one input for entering the to-dos, one button, and our application will reside inside of this div with the ID of app. Afterwards follows the JavaScript. So first we are creating a state. This will be our main object, which will be rendered afterwards. So for this state, let's say that we have specified the name of to-do list number 1, and we've placed inside of an array of to-dos our first to-do, so it has an ID and a data and a button for clearing up the to-do. And if we refresh here, actually that's what is the initial rendering. We are using the main function render, which will grab a state. So we'll grab this object here and we'll render in a h1 tag its name, and afterwards for each of the to-dos we'll use this render to-dos function. So it accepts a to-dos array, and for each of the to-dos it will render an li tag and it will display its data property. So actually we'll be seeing this rendered as an HTML inside of our DOM, and this all will be wrapped inside of an UL. And after everything is ready, we'll just place everything inside of our app element. And actually this app element is our query selected element with the ID of app. So actually this is this element here, which is empty. Every time we see a change in the state, the render function will be triggered and the new to-dos will be rendered on the screen. For this functionality, we are using exactly this function setState, which accepts one object, and actually we are passing a new object to this setState, and for each of the keys of this new object it will update the initial state we are having here. So it will update this object, and after the object has been updated, it will just render the new information on the screen. Then we'll go to the event listeners. So in case we are clicking on the add event listener, we'll first see if we have anything inside of our input, and if we don't have, we'll just exit from this event listener. Otherwise, we'll grab the last ID of the to-dos. That's we're doing because we might have some initial markup in the HTML or inside of our object element here. We would like to start from number 2 in this case. So that's why we're using this function last ID, and to be able to grab the last ID of the list. Inside of this function, we are using the map function. So first we are grabbing all the to-dos, and we are interested only from their IDs. Okay, once we have their IDs, we are just getting the maximum of the ID, and this will give us what will be the last ID inserted in the list. And if such not exists, we are just returning 0. It's time to create our initial object. We increase the last ID received, and for the data we are just constructing a button with a class of delete with a data ID of this last ID. Afterwards we will just run this setState function, but more interesting is what is happening inside of this dispatch function. So we are just instructing to run action add and to add our current to-do. So let's see what's inside of the dispatch. When we're in the add case, we are just adding the to-do inside of our state to-dos, and we are returning the new array here. So we're doing everything immutable. Once we have the dispatched action, we are ready to set a new state. We loop through all the keys of the new object passed, and we are rendering the new state. That's basically how we use the event listener on the click button. Now let's see how we are deleting to-dos. First, we are checking whether inside of our element we are clicking. So if we are here, whether here we are using the class of delete. So if we have such class, this means that we are on the proper button. And if we have such class delete, we are grabbing the ID from this button. Since this attribute data ID is fetched as a string, we're using a plus in front of it in order to convert it to integer. In order to determine on which element we clicked, we are using the event target attribute. Okay, afterwards, when we have the ID, we are constructing our current to-do, which we would like to delete. And again, we set a state with a dispatched action of remove. So basically, the logic is when we have something we would like to do on elements of the to-do list, first we are grabbing them. Afterwards, we are constructing the element we would like to manipulate. And then we change the state inside of our state object. So that's how the program functions. You can add more states in this way, and everything is kept pretty clear. So that's it, guys. If you have enjoyed the tutorial, you can subscribe to the channel.